You are living for people who don't even think about you. That is the uncomfortable truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Every decision you make, every word you hesitate to say, every version of yourself that you try to adjust, is being shaped by the imagined judgment of others. And the strangest part is, it feels normal. You don't question it anymore. You don't stop to ask why you hold back, why you shrink, why you filter your own thoughts before they even reach the surface. You just do it, automatically, silently, and over time. That silence begins to change you, not all at once, not in a way that is obvious, but slowly, almost invisibly. You begin to move differently, speak differently, think differently, not because you chose to, but because you adapted to expectations, adapted to approval, adapted to a world where being accepted feels more important than being real. And that is where the problem begins, because the more you adapt to be accepted, the more you drift away from who you actually are. And at first, it doesn't seem like a big deal. It feels harmless. You tell yourself it's just being polite, just being careful, just being aware. But what you don't realize is that every small adjustment comes with a cost. Every time you silence yourself, you reinforce the idea that your voice is not safe. Every time you hold back your thoughts, you teach your mind that honesty is dangerous. Every time you choose approval over authenticity, you move one step further away from yourself. And eventually, something inside you starts to feel off. Not broken, not completely lost, just disconnected, like you are present, but not fully there, like you are living your life, but not entirely inside it. And that feeling is difficult to explain. Because on the outside, everything might look fine. You might be functioning, working, talking, interacting, even smiling. But on the inside, there is a quiet tension, a subtle discomfort, a feeling that something is missing, even if you can't quite name what it is. And the truth is, what's missing is you, the real you, the unfiltered version of you, the version that existed before you started measuring your worth based on how others might perceive you. Because somewhere along the way, you learned that being yourself was risky, that being accepted required adjustment, that being liked required performance. And so you built a version of yourself that felt safer, more controlled, more acceptable, less likely to be judged. But that safety came with a price, because the more you tried to protect yourself from judgment, the more you imprisoned yourself inside expectation. And the worst part is, you didn't even realize it was happening. You thought you were gaining control, but in reality, you were giving it away to people who don't think about you nearly as much as you think they do, giving it away to opinions that change constantly, giving it away to a system that rewards conformity, but quietly punishes authenticity. And this is where anxiety begins to take root, not from reality itself, but from the tension between who you are and who you think you need to be. Because maintaining a false version of yourself is exhausting. It requires constant awareness, constant monitoring, constant adjustment. You have to think before you speak, filter before you act, analyze before you decide. And over time, that constant mental pressure becomes your normal state. You don't relax. You don't fully express. You don't fully exist. You perform. And performance is draining. Because no matter how good you become at it, it is never enough. There is always another expectation, another standard. Another invisible line you feel you need to stay within. And that is what keeps you stuck. Not the world. Not other people, but your attachment to how you are perceived. Because the truth is, People are not watching you as closely as you. Believe. They are not analyzing your every move. They are not thinking about your mistakes long after they happen. They are too busy thinking about themselves, their own fears, their own insecurities, own lives. And yet, you live as if you are constantly being evaluated. As if every moment is being judged. As if every action defines you, and that belief shapes everything. It shapes your confidence. Your decisions, your opportunities. Because when you are afraid of being judged, you start avoiding anything that could expose you. You avoid speaking up. You avoid taking risks. You avoid being seen. And slowly, your world becomes smaller, not because it has to be, but because you made it that way, out of fear. Out of fear. Hesitation. Out of the need to be approved. And this is where most people stay, not because they want to, but because they never question it. They assume this is just how life is. That anxiety is normal. That overthinking is unavoidable. That self-doubt is part of being human. But it is not. It is learned. And anything that is learned can be unlearned, but only if you are willing to face something uncomfortable. Truth. The truth that your suffering is not caused by other people's opinions, but by how much importance you give to them. Because opinions are everywhere. They always have been. They always will be. People will judge you no matter what you do. If you speak, you will be judged. If you stay silent, you will be judged. If you succeed, you will be judged. If you fail, you will be judged. There is no path that avoids it. And once you truly understand that, something shifts, because the question is no longer, how do I avoid judgment? The question becomes, why am I trying so hard to avoid something that is inevitable? And that question changes everything, because it forces you to look inward. To examine your own beliefs. To question the patterns you have been following unconsciously. And when you do that, you start to see the illusion. You start to see that the fear you had been carrying was never as real as it felt. It was constructed. Reinforced. Repeated. Until it became part of your identity. But it is not who you are. It is just something you learned. And what can be learned can be undone. But that process requires awareness. And more importantly, it requires courage. Not the loud kind of courage, not the kind that seeks attention, but quiet courage, the kind that allows you to be seen as you are, without needing approval, the kind that allows you to act, even when you feel uncomfortable, the kind that allows you to choose truth over acceptance, because that is where real freedom begins. Because once you begin to see it, you can't unsee it. That constant pressure you feel, that need to be accepted, that fear of being judged, it starts to lose its authority over you. Not instantly, not all at once, but slowly. Steadily, it begins to weaken. And in its place, something new starts to emerge. Clarity. At first, it's subtle, almost fragile. A small realization that maybe, just maybe, you don't need to live this way anymore. And that realization is dangerous because it challenges everything. You've been conditioned to believe. It questions the need for approval. Questions the fear of rejection. It questions the idea that your value is determined by how others perceive you. And when those questions arise, your mind will resist. It will try to pull you back into old patterns. It will remind you of past embarrassment, past rejection, past judgment. It will tell you to be careful. To stay safe, to not take risks, because that is what it has been trained to do, protect you. But here is the problem. Your mind doesn't just protect you from danger, it also protects you from growth, because growth feels uncomfortable. Growth requires exposure. Growth requires risk, and most importantly, growth requires you to be seen. And being seen is exactly what you have been. Avoiding. So now you stand at a crossroads. One path feels familiar. Safe. Predictable. It is the path of approval, path of fitting in, the path of adjusting yourself to match expectations. The path where you are liked, but not truly known. And then there is the other path, the uncomfortable one, the uncertain one, the path where you stop performing, where you stop filtering every thought, where you stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you, the path where you begin to live as you actually are. And that path is terrifying because it means letting go of control. It means accepting that people might misunderstand you. Means accepting that not everyone will like you. And for someone who has spent their life seeking approval, that feels like loss. But it is not loss. It is liberation, because the approval you are holding on to was never real security. It was temporary. Unstable. Dependent. And anything that depends on others can be taken away at any moment, which means you are never truly safe to begin with. You are just temporarily comfortable, and comfort is not the same as freedom. Freedom is different. Freedom is internal. It is stable. It does not depend on how others react to you. It does not change based on external validation. It is something you build from within, and the foundation of that freedom is understanding what is in your control and what is not. You cannot control what people think. You cannot control how they interpret your actions. You cannot control whether they like you, respect you, or agree with you. But you can control how you show up. You can control whether you act with honesty. You can control whether you speak your truth. You can control whether you move forward, even when you feel afraid. And that shift from external control to internal responsibility changes everything, because it removes the need to constantly monitor the outside world. It removes the need to predict reactions. It removes the need to adjust yourself for approval. Instead, your focus turns inward, and for many people, that is unfamiliar territory, because they have spent so much time focused on others that they have lost connection with themselves. They don't know what they truly think. They don't know what they truly want. They don't know who they are without external influence. And that realization can feel uncomfortable, even overwhelming. But it is also where real growth begins. Because when you stop looking outward for validation, you are forced to look inward for direction. And at first, it feels quiet. Almost empty. But if you stay there, if you allow yourself to sit in that silence, something begins to form. Sense of self, not based on opinions, not based on expectations, but based on awareness. You begin to notice your thoughts more clearly. You begin to recognize patterns. You begin to see where your fears come from. And more importantly, you begin to see that those fears are not facts. They are interpretations. Stories. Conditioned responses. And once you see them as they are, they lose their power, because fear thrives in illusion. It thrives in assumptions. It thrives in the unknown. But awareness brings clarity, and clarity dissolves fear. Not completely, not forever, but enough for you to act anyway. And that is the key, because the goal is not to eliminate fear. Goal is to stop obeying it. To stop letting it dictate your actions. To stop letting it define your limits. Because every time you choose fear over truth, you reinforce the belief that fear is in control. And every time you choose truth, even when it's uncomfortable, you take that control back, piece by piece, moment by moment, until eventually something shifts. You begin to trust yourself, not because you feel confident all the time, but because you no longer abandon yourself when it matters. And that trust is powerful because it replaces the need for external validation. You no longer need others to confirm your worth. You no longer need approval to feel secure. You no longer need to be liked to feel valuable. And that is where real independence begins. Not financial independence, not social independence, but psychological independence. The ability to stand on your own without needing constant reassurance. And from that place, your actions change. You speak more freely. You take more risks. You express yourself more honestly, not because you are trying to prove something, but because you no longer feel the need to hide, and that authenticity has a different kind of power, It doesn't force attention, It doesn't demand validation, but it stands out because it is rare. Most people are still performing, still adjusting, still seeking approval, and when someone stops doing that, it is noticeable, It creates presence, it creates respect. Not because you asked for it, but because you earned it through alignment, through honesty, through the refusal to betray yourself. And that is something people can feel, even if they don't understand it, even if they can't explain it. They recognize it because deep down, they are searching for it too, But here is where it gets even more interesting, because once you begin to live this way, once you stop seeking approval, once you start acting from your own truth, not everyone will like it. Some people will feel uncomfortable around you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will even criticize you more than before, and that can feel confusing at first, because you might think, if I am being more real, why am I being judged more? But the answer is simple, because you are no longer playing the same game, you are no longer adjusting yourself to fit expectations. You are no longer making others feel comfortable at your own expense. And for people who are still trapped in that cycle, that can be unsettling, because your freedom highlights their limitations. Your authenticity reflects their fear, and not everyone is ready to face that. So instead, they resist it, they question it, they judge it, but that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to stay aligned with yourself, to continue choosing truth over approval, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels isolating. Because yes, there will be moments of isolation, moments where you feel like you don't fully belong, moments where you question whether this path is worth it, and those moments are important because they test your commitment. They force you to decide whether you want comfort or freedom. And that choice must be made again and again, not once, not occasionally, but consistently, because the pull of approval never fully disappears. It weakens, but it remains. And in those moments, you must remind yourself why you started. You must remind yourself what it felt like to live for others, to hold back, to shrink, to constantly seek validation. And when you remember that, the choice becomes clearer, because once you experience even a glimpse of freedom, it becomes difficult to go back, difficult to pretend, difficult to silence yourself again. And that is when the transformation becomes real. Not because everything is perfect, not because fear disappears, but because you are no longer controlled by it, and that changes everything. If this video spoke to you, then something inside you already knows the truth. Most people will ignore it. They'll go back to the same patterns, the same fears, the same need for approval. But a few choose differently. If you're one of them, stay on this path, subscribe, not for me, but as a commitment to yourself, because what comes next will change the way you see everything.